Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson. Tonight, I'm joined by two faces you might be less familiar with. They are Mavs Moneyball contributor Matt Martinez and Michael Harris. How you doing, guys?
Hey, good, Kirk.
How's it going, guys?
For a Sunday evening watch.
I got to be honest with you. Even Mavs bloggers are tanking. Josh is on the injured report. I am also on the injured report, but we both couldn't be on the injured report. Something got in his eye and he can't see very well. So I'm like, don't even worry about it. And I tore my plantar fascia. Not entirely, but I have had lots of injuries, and this is a remarkably painful one. So I am drinking during the show, but I'm not there yet, so don't worry. So the Mavericks played a basketball-like substance tonight, where they were beat by the Oklahoma City Thunder 100-87. And the reason these two gentlemen joined me is we're going to do our best to talk about anything else other than the game. No, what? So what did you guys think about this one tonight? This kind of felt like, to me, more of a standard Mavericks game where the Thunder are an excellent measuring stick just so we can understand how far we have to go before the Mavericks are back in contention. Matt, let me kick to you first. What did you think about tonight?
Well, at no point, Kirk, did it feel like a serious basketball game in that both teams sort of knew what was about to happen. The Thunder didn't really have the foot on the throat as far as, going up 35 or 40 like they probably could have if they, chose to play with some semblance of a killer instinct tonight. But it all seemed like a foregone conclusion. But are you telling me you're not ready to take a deep dive into Caleb Martin season high scoring night?
Well, I mean, a little bit, because you jokingly, or I think David Trink posted this because he was at the game tonight. He just posted like Nico was right in the middle of the game. And I've got to say, for as much as I don't like watching Caleb Martin just for what he more means, I've been surprised at how functional of a basketball player he's been. He's just a perfect tank commander, really, because he's not terrible, but he can play. And so you watch these shooting performances, and I'm not there yet, but starting around early July, maybe late June, I'm going to start talking about how every contender can use a Caleb Martin. That's going to be my thing. Michael, what did you think about tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Martin's definitely the headliner for me. I'm looking at the stats here. A whopping 14 points to lead all scorers really kind of tells you, man, I mean, we could have a whole podcast on that for multiple reasons, but obviously we're not going to do that. I am happy that our boy Moose got 11 rebounds. His stat line is 0-11-0-0-0 stat line in the 5 major statistical categories, but 11 boards is nice, and that was the highlight of my night.
How many times did he hit the floor? 200, 300? I mean, the broadcast talked about how he only has 5 games of eligibility left, which I'm glad they addressed. Because we've talked about this. They've drastically misused Moose's availability all year, and they did the same thing last year. And I'm very annoyed by it because he's actually a useful player. But he plays so hard. It's like, God, is that guy going to make it to the end of the game, let alone like the season? Because he just kept crashing down into the floor. And then he puts his hands over his head, and it's just like, okay, no, he's fine. He's fine.
I hate to be this guy, Michael, but hit refresh. I think it was 18 for Caleb and 12 rebounds for the Moose.
Oh, was it? You might be. You know what? You're right. Thank you, my man. Wow, that's even better. But an 18-point Caleb Martin night, when he was at 16, I was on season high watch. I was at the edge of my seat.
Well, this ended up being kind of a goofy game. I looked at the injury report at about 11 a.m. because the Mavericks had a day off between games, so they're required to turn in an injury report by a certain amount of time. And Najee Marshall was questionable as of the noon injury report with a finger contusion.
Ooh.
Then he ends up getting downgraded to doubtful. And for anyone that doesn't know, if you go down to doubtful, that's effectively marking you out. The NBA does not like it when people get bumped from doubtful up to active. So him and then PJ Washington, who it's just like him and Daniel Gafford have Gumby ankles is more or less kind of the problem. So he was missing the game, and so it's like wondering who was going to play. I mean, I kind of have to explain to people that like NBA rosters have 15 guys plus the 3 two-way guys. So you realistically have as many as 18 guys to choose from in a given night if you really want it to be that way. So the Mavericks obviously had enough guys to field, but it's just you go through, you look at kind of who they ended up rolling out there tonight, and it's just it's not great. Klay Thompson got hurt at some point. When did that happen in the first half?
I think it was right in the third. They announced it shortly after it happened. I really picked up on it in the third, like because he was sort of like inconspicuously absent, and then all of a sudden they were saying, "And by the way, Klay's not going to return to the game tonight." So yeah, I don't know when the injury happened. They were saying it's a contusion, which to me seems he got hit, not strained
the
something.
dreaded adductor. Mavs fans everywhere shudder when they hear adductor.
Yeah.
To
me, it's like they have a word jumble in a sack, and it's like they shake it up, and instead of pulling out letters like in Scrabble, you pull out injury words and then combine them together.
It's Mad Libs with just random body parts and different injuries.
At least it wasn't a laceration.
Yeah, so the game kind of slowly, once again, in Maverick losses, they give up a gorillion points in the first quarter. That's effectively the lesson learned here. They got down early to the Thunder. Thunder played with their food. Thunder were up by as many as what are they? It was 16? No, they were up by as many as 22 in this game.
Yeah,
and so obviously the Mavericks would close it 6 or 7 different times. But it really ultimately wasn't much of a close contest. It was what you'd expect. I didn't talk enough about the Grizzlies loss the other night, but like what they did against the Grizzlies was like a masterclass in losing. This was a much more. I'm glad they didn't get blown off the floor like immediately because that's much harder to watch. This was one where it was like a lot of yo-yoing, and you could just see the Thunder bigger, better, and have much better shooting. And SGA is just an offensive engine. Like when he dunked on Max Christie, I think it was in the second quarter, where I was like, okay, this game's over with.
And hey, we survived the experience without Lou Dort doing anything shameful. So that was.
I mean, watching him shoot the basketball feels shameful because when he misses, it's like. It's like a missile's gone awry and explodes somewhere else because like they just hit so hard. And I've been slowly arguing with Thunder fans the last few days about him because I think they're better without him. I don't think they need his shenanigans. It's a silly thing. What else do we got here from this game? That was actually I noticed that I think my favorite statistical point of the night was when Dwight Powell finally gets a putback to go off an offensive rebound, and it was their first second chance points of the game in the third quarter. That just sort of showed how like much the Thunder controlled this game. They're playing with their food quite a bit.
Yeah. And there was one point, I forget the actual lineup, but I just remember like seeing it and having it hit me in the moment that it was like we had 3 two-way players or something against the best team in the league. And it was just kind of comical to me, like how many guys were out, how unrefined we are. And to the point you guys have been making, they were just sort of playing with their food. And I'm almost grateful for it because, Matt, you said it earlier. Like when the game started, I said to my wife, I was like, man, we're going to be down 40 inside of 12 minutes. Like this is going to be a rough Sunday night. And I'm almost glad that it wasn't. It at least kept it mildly entertaining, but it was.
That's right.
Yeah, it is a rough lineup, a rough night for sure.
I think the only thing left to talk about with this game, then we'll take a quick break, and I want to talk about some of the kind of the newsy things that happened over this weekend. Because there are actually quite a number of things. Was the Jared McCain trade? Nick Nurse should be fired immediately for this. Like he is a useful basketball player. He would be on this team a starter. And the Philadelphia 76ers traded away a 6-man kind of guy, largely because Nick Nurse didn't know how to use him. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, he was so good. And what did he do tonight? I had it up and then I pulled it away. Crap. You'd think I'd be better at this after, hosting 7,000 podcasts. But he ended up with, just only 6 points. No, that's he had 11 points in 22 minutes. He didn't really do anything else statistically other than those points. But it's like the ability to have a microwave off the bench it's just not fair. I don't know. It annoys me.
The rich continue to get richer, and it's going to be that way. You've said it. We've said it when we talk about the NBA multiple times, but it's not going to get any better for people who don't like to see the Thunder win.
Yeah. They're gonna have to have something. They're gonna have to have something befall them. I was thinking about this today because a friend of me of the podcast, Matt Moore, was just talking about different iterations of like their health over the last 2 years. And they've never really been super healthy. They were kind of the second half of last season heading into the playoffs, but even then they had a lot of nickel and dime things happen to them. And the kind of depth they're able to throw out on the floor, they could win a lot of different ways. Like, one guy going down doesn't hurt them. And Bill Simmons said something on his Thursday show where he said, you as a team going up against them need an 8-man rotation you can trust. Not a 7-man, not 6.5. You need 8. And I just agree that watching them beat the hell out of the Mavericks tonight. Yeah. So, okay. We're going to go take a quick break here and talk about a few more things, and everybody can get on with their evening here. 3 ways to support the show. Quite literally, send me money if you are feeling really generous. Obviously, don't expect that. Listening to the ads is the best way. Appreciate that if you do that. And then the third way is to tell your friends, grow the show. You can subscribe to this podcast relatively easily. I like to record after every single episode or game. We haven't really not done that in a while. But I also like to record a secondary show where I take, calls like a radio show. And I did that pretty good for like the first 45 or so games. But lately there just hasn't been the volume in the room. Meaning, folks, we got my man Killer Cam who's hanging out and a few others that are always good. But there's just nothing to talk about. And I tend to find right now that the more I say, the more likely I am to get in trouble. So I should probably just shut up. We'll be right back after a break. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Okay. Before we talk about comic books and anything else fun, the news of the weekend was a little bit interesting to me. So starting with a big one, they're kind of even levels of stuff. Chris Middleton elected to not accept a buyout. Lots to this story. Michael, you wrote the piece. Do you want to kind of tell us both the news and sort of your interpretation of this, and then we'll go kick it to Matt?
Yeah, there were a couple of things. It felt like the onion kind of peeling back. So, okay, fine. On the surface, he's here. That's great. We get veteran Chris Middleton. We get some outside shooting. We have no outside shooting. Why the hell not? We might as well have some of that for the last, month and a half. A couple guys out in the media zeitgeist pointed out that with his bird rights, that affords sort of both parties some advantages. We can sign and trade him a lot easier. He could
never considered that. Like that a lot.
Yeah. Great point. That really kind of got me thinking as far as, okay, cool. You can sign and trade him. You can sign him into like a first apron team. So teams that are, I don't know how you want to call over the cap or whatever, but in that range where they weren't going to outright sign him, now could sign him. So the Mavs can get something back for him as opposed to nothing by letting him walk, waiving him, whatever you want to say. Mm-hmm. And he could get a better payday than perhaps picking up on some, truncated contract for a quick postseason run, and then he's out in the ether in the offseason. So that was all cool. The one thing I kind of thought about on my own, and I'm sure it wasn't independent, I'm sure a lot of other people had this thought, is last week the Mavs had said to him apparently that, hey, we might have a place for you next year. Ball's in your court. You want to go chase a ring? You want to go to a contender? Let us know. We'll waive you. You want to stick around? You might have a future here. And what immediately dawned on me when I heard that was, what happens to Klay Thompson? Maybe now all of a sudden the slightly younger, certainly with all due respect, more capable Middleton could be your veteran shooting guy that can kind of come in, play spot minutes, know his role, and really do that Thompson role. Maybe Thompson ends up, who knows what, getting moved, getting traded, whatever it may be. But there's certainly a glut at the forward position, as there has been all season, with Cooper, PJ, Najee, Christie, Thompson, and now Middleton. Maybe this is Thompson's exit. You know, everybody thought he'd be gone by the trade deadline, and he's obviously not. But who knows what happens in the offseason. I think it gives the Mavs a lot more versatility to choose between the two, at least, if you want that sort of veteran shooter. And candidly, Middleton seems better and more capable on the defensive end. He might be the better of the two options at this point.
I hadn't really thought about the Clay element of that. I like that. Matt, what do you think?
I like that a lot. You know, I was a proponent of seeing what you could get for Clay at the deadline. I don't know what kind of market there ever really was. But I do think that Middleton as veteran sensei kind of, you know, is makes ushering Clay out the door. If you can get even anything for him, an easier decision to make. You know, I've liked what I've seen from Middleton. You know, just from, you know, his days 4 or 5 years ago, really like his you know, his game and his willingness to take this seriously. You know, he's obviously working for his next contract, and you know, I'd like to have him for one more year. I'd like to see him eat some more of Clay's minutes, maybe. You know, I think the Clay Thompson experiment was a thing, and I think, you know, it's kind of taking its course. I like Middleton as veteran sensei for at least.
I really hadn't thought about the Clay element of this at all, because his contract next year is really kind of wonky. It's like a partial guarantee. I don't really know the insides and outs of it, but I will say that, you know, you get Cooper Flagg in year 2, rookie, whoever, Kyrie Irving, Chris Middleton, Clay Thompson, locker room vets. Not a bad group. Dwight Powell probably find a way to come back just because he's inevitable. It's an interesting thought process with it. I do think that the bird rights element of it and potentially trading him to a honest to goodness contender is probably my favorite thing, because I've mentioned early and often about my desire to be a way station for, you know, contracts, draft picks, find a way to build up the asset chest. You're not going to be able to do it like the Thunder or the Jazz, but there is a way to do it given the right path and a little bit of luck. So there's a lot of optionality here, and I think that knowing what I know now, I'm fine with Middleton being on the team. I was annoyed. I initially was like, let's buy the guy out. Like, let's just be done with it. And now I find the options, you know, interesting. They're not harmful. There's, you know, the Mavericks have some flexibility here, which is fun for a change, because that's been, you know, a little bit of a problem. The second piece of news.
What do you think it would cost next year?
It's a great question, because it's got to be a matter of what does he prioritize, because somebody told me the Mavericks have some like exceptions available to them depending on where they fall on the salary cap. I mean, he's probably worth the full. I don't know how much it would mean, but he's a good player, man. Like what he did the other night, this is a guy that's capable of, like, to me, maybe this is a preposterous thing to consider, but later stages Jerry Stackhouse, like a 22 to 24 minute a night guy who comes in and just punches the other team in the mouth, particularly against second units. Like, he would be good at that for anyone. He's just the guy I like watching play basketball. I have a really good friend who's a Bucks lifer, like psychopath, and he'll just send, you know, if I start talking about him, he'll just send me like his some of his playoff performances. And because he was in Giannis's shadow, which is fine, he's, you know, second tier guy on the team. A lot of what he did as a superstar, I think, gets historically forgotten. Like or as a second guy on a team, he's really good. He's really good. And so, you know, maybe it's the Toby Keith thing where he's not as good as he once was, but, you know, 20 games a season, he can be a deciding factor in an important game. So I don't know. I'm open-minded with regards to the Middleton of it all, and I think that presents Dallas with a whole bunch of options moving forward. And like I said, I like that.
Agreed.
The other news, the Mavericks, I cannot believe it was framed this way. The Mavericks agreed to, essentially move on from did they buy out Tyus Jones? What happened there? What was the news?
I think it was reported that he was waived.
To go join up, so he could go join a play, like players who are out, like that. He's not a playoff guy. Like what planet are we on?
Oh.
He could barely play for the Mavericks. Like I was just laughing. So, Tyus Jones was a guy the Mavericks sort of hunted for a number of years, believe it or not. Came to the team, and then I think they were done with him within 10 or 15, however many games it's been since the trade deadline. That then freed them up to, and I don't think this is confirmed yet, but maybe it is. Doesn't really matter. It's going to happen regardless. Ryan Nembhard, who only had 5 or 6 games of eligibility left, and his two-way was signed to a 2-year deal with the terms being undisclosed. So, I'm fine with it. I'm not a Nembhard guy, but I think in terms of between him and Tyus Jones, I would rather have Nembhard.
I think so.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I'm enjoying the, obviously we shouldn't even mention his name, but Nico did the Infinity Gauntlet, the snap, destroyed the team, destroyed our hope, destroyed everything, and then somehow feels like this kind of rebirth. I'm excited about some of these young guys and just having some of these young guys. And again, I don't know who knows what Nembhard will be, or was that all a flash in the pan earlier in the season? Is that the best he'll ever be, or the best is yet to come? I'm kind of just excited to find out. And with all due respect to Jones, that kind of veteran doesn't make sense here. I'd rather give those minutes, especially over the last 20 some odd games, give them to Nembhard and let's see what we got there. Let's at least watch a couple of young guys do something fun and, do something exciting, athletic, whatever it might be, something new to at least get us through the season and see what we got. Why the hell not?
Yeah, but Michael, you're our AJ Johnson caucus, so I don't know how much.
Look, man, it's so funny. One of the things I really when people decide that they hate me, they also decide that they hate Mavs Moneyball and like everything adjacent, and no one would believe the myriad of Mavs options that were opinions that we have on the site, where we have our new guy, Jack Nowicki, who just carpet bombs us with takes and some of the thought process. And then, so it's like, it's one of the things I like about Michael on staff is he is an optimist without being annoying. And that's a key differentiation because some optimists don't want to hear negativity.
Right.
And that's actually a lot of fans, if I'm being honest. And so Michael's saying, all right, I want to give this guy a look in terms of AJ Johnson, who we didn't even talk about him. He had kind of he's just not good. Right. But then again, the Thunder are designed to make bad players look heinous. So it's neither here nor there. But
that I've liked watching him play for 50 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
Well, Nembhard, I think at least, I said earlier, I'm not a Nembhard guy, but I think you could make the case to me where it's just, what does he need to improve? Largely, he needs to improve the shooting. The second thing he needs to improve is he needs to get the surgery from Gattaca and grow 4 inches.
Right.
Considering that's not going to happen, if the shooting becomes passable, and it really, I love when Shams Charania tweeted out, he's like, oh, he's a 44% 3-point shooter. And it's like, is it really that good? And it's like, you look at it and then you go game by game. He just doesn't shoot at volume. It's Nembhard's for where we are right now in the season. Nembhard's fine. He's fine. Yeah. So he can lead the tank.
And I think you nailed it though. The one thing that kills you about him is that it's the one thing. He seems like the guy that'll put in work. He seems like the guy that'll improve, a student of the game, but he's not going to grow 3 or 4 more inches. And that's, I don't know. Maybe
ESPN has him listed. ESPN has him listed at 5'11", and that's just
what a joke. That's great.
It's just not true. And plus, he's now at 30. He's now 38 3-point shooter. Like he's got to hang around 40% to be marginal. But for right now, you take that stab, and likely the next year's is like a low partial guarantee, something like that. So, it's worth the shot in the dark. I actually would expect him to play on like summer league again next year, which, considering the Mavericks will have 2 draft picks on that summer league squad, somebody like Nembhard, if they don't select a point guard with one of the early picks, is going to be almost a requirement. Because him and Cooper playing together this past summer, I thought made the Mavericks look a lot more watchable. Even in these games when they started inserting him earlier in the season, like his numbers looked awful and no one knew it because the team went from being unbearable to watch to being, okay, we're happy with this. So, is there anything else that I've missed? I'm kind of brain dead.
I'm going to Cooper Flag bobblehead night.
Ooh, when is that?
They're doing it on the 23rd and the 30th. Those are both Monday night games.
Okay. Yeah, that's worth the price of admission.
Through the special link. And yeah, I've got a bunch of Rangers bobbleheads, and I was such a mark for that. I had to click.
It's fun. It's fun. There's not many home games left.
Yeah. It strikes me. I am the guy who writes the satire pieces about the ownership being, third world despots, right? and I will have those ridiculous opinions on one hand, and then I will, you're having a bobblehead night? I will attend. I will. So the hypocrisy of my fandom.
Oh, it's good.
Large in this moment.
No, people online have a hard time with this because it's like you're allowed to hold multiple contradicting thoughts in my head. Like somebody at the game tonight sent me a photo from the Mavs hangar of Anthony Davis stuff being marked at 75% off. And I was like, you should grab something. That's going to be a novelty item at some point.
Item. Yeah.
It's something there. Michael, what about you? Any stray Mavs thoughts on your brain?
I'll say this I've been a Mavs fan for a long, long time and seen all sorts of championships to OJ Mayo teams, beards to 500, all the craziness that you can think of in recent history. 500,
God.
Remember that, everybody.
Dirk looked so amazing, and Harrison Barnes looked like a crazy person. Yeah, that's a good one.
Just good memories, but there's something for a team that's going nowhere except hopefully higher in the draft. There is something that really is entertaining about it. And coming out of the nightmare of the trade, and there was something about this trade deadline that really did make me feel hopeful, with all due respect to AD, just being off of that and closing the chapter on that. Somehow it's fun. This 10-game losing streak that just ended, for 5 seconds, a couple weeks ago, that was somehow fun. You get destroyed in the first quarter, but leave it to the Mavs. And we would joke all the time in all our little staff chats, going to be a clutch game. Down by 20 at the end of the first quarter, and you knew it was going to be a clutch game. And 8 out of 10 of those losses, I think, were, so there's something that's somehow enjoyable about this disaster that's somehow been nice. And I'm hoping this is kind of the infancy where we can look back on it in a 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years, and say, wow, this team's real good. And some of the guys on that roster were these guys that were the kind of bad news bears of 25, 26. So for how abysmal it is, there is something that's at least kind of fun about it.
I like it.
It's perverse, and it lives in the Mavs Moneyball Slack. I tell you, I would not be watching any of these games were it not for the little tight-knit community of Mavs sickos that we have.
I agree. This is why, you watch sports more or less to watch sports with people and process it together. And I always love the looks that I get when people are like, you were watching the Mavs? Yeah. It's really good. It's really gross. I can't stop. Oh, well. Yeah. Guys, as I shouldn't say as always, because it's been a while since both of you have been on, but this has been wonderful. We managed to get a half hour out of almost nothing. So I know that anybody who's out there still listening to the show, we very much appreciate your giving shit about the Mavericks, because we certainly do. Josh and I will be back at some point. I am going to try to go to another high school playoff game around here on Tuesday. The next week's slate of games are all at hilariously bad start times for anyone with adult responsibilities because they're all at like 6. But I can't say you're missing much. They just go out on the road forever, and they have a terrible road thing. They're going to win some games, so don't get upset if they do. The basketball gods will do what they do, and it's all a game of chance. So don't get too worked up about it. All right, for Matt and for Michael, I'm Kirk Henderson at Pod Maverick and Mavs Moneyball. We will see you guys later. Thanks so much. Go Mavs.
Go Mavs.
Go Mavs.